here at one of the ETS 101 video interviews. I'm here with Dwight Scruggs, Senior Vice President of Client Services for Allconnect. Looking forward to having an opportunity to talk with you a little more about what you feel is critical to this discussion we've been having around designing for energy. Can you tell us about yourself, please, and let's open it up.
My pleasure. It's great to be here. Thank you, HG. As you said, my name is Dwight Scruggs. I've been with Allconnect for 11 and a half years. At Allconnect, I lead the effort with managing our utility partners across the country. So we work with 65 utility operating companies nationally. And our whole goal in life is to make sure we're supporting their goals and efforts and creating innovative programs to increase enrollment for their customer base. And I'm also responsible for going out and getting new utility partners nationally, as well as kind of understand the regulatory landscape so that we're ahead of the curve, so to speak. So nationally, if we understand where policies are being, what policies are being written, and what they're looking for, we can be creative and supportive in designing solutions to support those efforts. Allconnect is headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. We also have facilities in St. George, Utah, and Lexington, Kentucky.
So this concept of knowing the customer, when we're here at ETS, we can sense that there's an evolution going on of the utility mindset, the utility interaction to the customer, and there are all these drivers that are pushing this utility to become this next, have this new identity, right? And that only can happen with involvement, engagement, and cooperation with the customer. That's part of this big paradigm shift.
Yes.
What do you see is missing from that conversation given the work your company does?
Well, a few things. We've spent a lot of time actually engaging the customer through all channels, but we talk to approximately 3 million customers in a voice conversation, right? And we do surveys from those customers, and we ask them what's most important to them. And what we found out is a few things. One thing that we think is missing is speaking to the customer in what I always call speak customer, not utility, right? So for example, we speak in terms of megawatts and kilowatts, and customers have no idea what you're talking about, right? So if you can find a way to translate the message that you're trying to deliver to the customer into their language and what it means to them. For example, we found that sometimes utilities say, here, we'll have a great program. So here's a great program for you, Mr. and Mrs. Customer. But the customer doesn't understand what it means to them. So it should, the messaging to the customer should say, hey, it's gonna help you decrease your bill, it's going to make you safer, it's going to help the environment. You have to connect the dots for the customer. And what we found out is when you do that, the customer is going to be more receptive to the messaging. Then also, you can't, we say the voice of the customer, but it's not the voice of the customer, it's the voice of the customers, because everyone's different. So we've seen a big, huge shift towards and you hear this a lot from other people, but the data analytics, the persona information. So when you approach customers, utilities as well as any other business, customers want to see that you know them. You're talking to them about things that are relevant to them. So if you do mass communications, for example, and you're talking about a program for an HVAC unit, but I live in an apartment, right out of the gate, you've told me that you don't know me. I'm just a part of a mass shotgun approach to communication. And then also the last thing I'll say, what I've learned is that customers, you need to look at the entire journey of the customer. From the time that customer moves into their new home, into your territory, you should welcome them into their new home, welcome them as a customer in your service territory, and then establish a relationship that's going to live on forever. So what about being creative, and a year after a customer's been in their home, you've already gave them a great experience when they moved into their home, but after they've been in their home for a year, just proactively reach out to the customer and say, hey, you've been a customer for a year. Thank you for being our customer. And here's a little gift, and then you can pivot into things like, hey, there are some great programs out here that you may not be aware of that would be very beneficial to you, and you've got usage information for that customer for a whole year. You could guide them down a path, and the customers will be very receptive to that.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
More and more, we need that relationship between the utility and the customer needs to be a partnership.
Yes.
And to your point, partnerships that work, successful ones, are based on respect and understanding. And it sounds like you focused in on this being a key component to the success of the utility's vision.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's not a transaction. it's an opportunity.
Interesting. But talk a little bit, I went to sleep last night thinking about, because we had this conversation as we were going back to the hotel, what is the best platform? There's so many platforms now to touch someone, from LinkedIn, Twitter, et cetera, to just calling someone on the phone. What are the most powerful ways to create that connection to the customer?
And they all are important, as we know, but what we found is the most important is that initial connection with the customer. So for example, your utility XYZ, customer moves into their new home. You welcome them because you know that more than likely the next time you have a connection with that customer, it may be about an outage, a billing issue, or something of that nature. So if you greet them and welcome them to their new home, you educate them about the services that are available to them at that interaction, and you establish that relationship out of the gate, that is the most key. And then in most cases, what we've seen is one of the biggest opportunities that is missed, right? So you establish that relationship, you don't talk to them about every program that's available, but if you're able to leverage the data and information, you know the address of that customer, right? You know where they're moving into their home. So when they move in, there's certain things about usage. There's certain things about what your data will tell you is that most customers that live in this subdivision are most receptive to, it's most important to them. And you engage them on those things and establish that relationship. And what we found is by doing that, you get a little bit of goodwill, so to speak, right? So now that next interaction, if it's a proactive interaction, a year, 2 years down the road, 6 months, whenever, and you engage them about something, in their mind, they're like, the last time my interaction with that utility company was a great experience. So you move into more of the tell me more mode. And even if there's a problem, we found that they're going to be more, they're going to be more tolerant of the issue or the problem because they've had a good experience and they have a connection. It's like you're part of your family now, so family will forgive family more than they'll forgive someone else.
Especially the utility.
Yes, exactly.
Excellent. Well, Dwight, I want to thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.
Excellent.
My pleasure.
Yes.